the people before us and after us. Really what it is you get to do the work for 7 generations behind you and 7 generations ahead of you. So, I mean, like, deep work both ways, right? That's what we get to do. Hard, so hard, but so worth it.
Welcome to the Multiple Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Holly
and Brittany. This is a space where we can come together healing in community, where we share our self-love journeys, insights, and wisdom.
A space with no hierarchy or judgment, fostering love, compassion, and respect, and where we honor our differences. With open minds and hearts, everyone's truth is welcome here. We are in this together. Let's dive into the episode. Hello and welcome back to another episode. You're here with Holly, and today I'm joined with Ash Murphy, aka the Beauty Shaman. She has been a beauty artist for the past 20 years. She has turned her focus from outer beauty work, fashion, to inner beauty work, self-love, and compassion for the last decade. She is a creatrix, a pathfinder, a mama wolf, creating space for healing containers for her community. In these containers, we can shine light into the darkest parts of ourselves and grow. Ritual is at the heart of everything she does. Ash is here to root people into their dharma and help them see themselves. Her goal is to remind us that beauty and love are at the root of everything. She believes that beauty is our birthright. I just love her so much. So I met Ash when I went to a sound healing full moon event ceremony about a year ago. She was one of the facilitators, and I just immediately saw her light. I say that about a lot of people that I have on this podcast, but if you get what I'm saying, you get what I'm saying. Like, lights find the light, I feel, and I really see her, and I saw her, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to speak to this woman, and just immediately connected with her so deeply. We align on so many different things. We are very much on the same wavelength. So I'm so excited for this topic, diving more into self-love, compassion, being in your body, accepting your body, generational trauma, generational patterns around negative self-talk, limiting beliefs when it comes to body, and just the beauty industry, the light and dark side of it, and just so much more. I'm so excited for this episode. So with that, let's dive in. Hello, Ash. I'm so excited to be here with you today. How are you?
I'm feeling really good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm so excited. So to start off, I know that you've been in the beauty industry for the past 20 years, and it's so inspiring to see how your focus is really shifting more towards that inner beauty, more self-love, more self-compassion. So I'd love if you want to share a bit about yourself, your background, your personal journey, and what truly drives your passion for beauty. I would love to start there.
Okay, I'm like, how much time do you have?
Yeah.
I'm Ash Murphy. I've been in the beauty industry for 20 years now.
Yeah.
Feels so wild, but I promise I started very young. And I dove headfirst into the fashion world. I started doing Fashion Week at 18 in LA and New York and London. Um, and it was pretty all consuming. I moved to New York City and was just swirling in the space. I loved the idea of what fashion brings to you and the sense of really being able to express yourself through fashion.
Mhm.
But as I grew within it and, kind of got older within it, I witnessed what image I was producing or what image I was helping produce.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And that started taking a really big toll on me and my work, because my work revolves around beauty and helping people feel better about themselves. And there was nothing in the fashion world that was a reflection of helping people feel better. I think
Right.
it's packaged that way in a really beautiful bow. But when it comes down to it, that's not what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
So within that space, I really had to take a step back and witness what I was a part of. So I actually left the fashion world, and I rotated my work into weddings and holding space for brides. I really wanted to, yeah, I think just sitting in that space with them and having people trust me on one of the most important days of their lives felt really important.
Mhm.
And then I really got to witness the space that I was holding for these women, and
Mhm.
what that opening was for them going into this wedding space. Um, I also did a big transition around my cutting and coloring work that I do, because I do cut and color hair.
Mm,
And
mhm.
I started actually landing in deep ritual around cutting and coloring. So when I cut hair, I actually have my clients focus on something to release.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, yeah, it's really
Yeah.
beautiful. It's a really beautiful session.
Yeah.
And then if we're adding color to it, usually we focus on something we want to attract. So it's
Mhm.
really this nice spiraling in and spiraling back out.
Yeah.
And actually, that's probably where I've learned the most about the beauty journey is in these sessions, and really getting to lean in with people on like where beauty stems from them. Really witnessing like how much beauty people allow in their lives, like think that they deserve.
Mm,
That comes
mhm.
from the inside and then reaches out. So I've even had sessions where people are like, they'll come in. I do these at my home privately, and they'll be like, wow, your home is just so beautiful. Like how you put things together. Like I just never think about how like I deserve to have a altar or different things like that. So it's really interesting to see like what we're allowing inside comes out, right? So it's
Mhm.
all this in and out kind of shift. Yeah. So now I think I'm like just reclaiming beauty for everyone, because I do believe that beauty is our birthright. And I
Mhm.
do believe that beauty, hand in hand with love, is like the root of everything on this planet. I just think that like this planet
Mhm.
is a planet of beauty.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in that space all the time. Just how do I create it? How do I bring it? How do I help others bring it? Um,
Mhm.
Kind of a space I try to swirl in often.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like what's coming to mind is like the true beauty lies from within. Like there's so much beauty that lies within us. And when we can find that beauty within us and see the beauty within ourselves, we can see the beauty outside of ourselves too. And I love that your intention has more shifted to like that internal beauty, because I think like when I think of the beauty industry, it's like there is such a light side to it, but there also is like a really dark side to it. Just as with everything in life, there's a light and dark side to everything in life. I see how the beauty industry, the fashion industry, it's like such a beautiful creative outlet and such a cool way to express yourself, like your true authentic expression. But then on the flip side of that, it's like things can get really dark and toxic like pretty quickly, like with the societal pressures of needing to look a certain way, dress a certain way, be a certain weight. It just feels like it can create this really dark space for a lot of people, like internalizing that negative self-talk, that talk like toxic or harmful behavior of like, okay, if I'm going to be in this beauty industry, then I need to be this weight, or I need to wear these kind of expensive clothes, and just like so much external validation, so much external things, where it's like needing more of that self validation, more of that like seeing that you are already good enough. You don't need to be a certain weight to be good enough. You don't need to have the trendy clothes to fit in. It's like really shifting that to be more intentional around the beauty industry. So I love what you do with the hair. I've been cutting my own hair, and I'll just chop off, and it's like every time I feel like I'm going through something where it's like I want to release a piece of me, it's like I'll cut my hair, and it's like, whoa, we're letting that go. It's like letting go of that weight. I just love that intentionality too. And I feel like bringing more of that intentionality into the beauty space, like women embracing their true, authentic beauty, and not so much focusing on what we need to change about ourselves, is like a direction that I would love to see the beauty industry go in. So I just love that you're in this space, and like your intentionality and like the rituals that you create are just like so beautiful and powerful. But I'm curious, like, how do you and did you maneuver that for yourself? Like how did you start showing yourself more self-love, more self-compassion? Because I'm sure being in that industry, you may have fallen victim to some of those things, right? You said it was like pretty toxic. So like, yeah, how did you maneuver that for yourself?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much there. So I would say that we'll just start, I guess, with my journey, and then I can maybe ping pong back in there a little bit. For me, it was definitely hard. I would say that I had body dysmorphia passed down to me.
Mhm.
I feel like one of the lucky ones that I didn't have like anorexia passed down to me or bulimia, because I know that a lot of times our parents or our mothers can teach us that.
Mhm.
But at a pretty young age, I was taught like how to count my calories, how to stay a certain size or a certain weight, depending on, what size my friends were. Um, and going into the fashion world, I mean, that was like a whole nother thing. So already counting my calories and being small, and then landing in the space where women are like a size 0 and
Mhm.
negative was
Yeah.
wild.
Oh, I have chills. Ugh, that would just be so
Yeah.
I feel can be really toxic, especially at such a young age, getting into that industry, seeing that just so impressionable at
Yeah,
that
and
age.
and
Mhm.
I think we've put really pretty stamps on things, and so we see some people who are plus size now, and now we're seeing like different skin tones and stuff like that, which I think is incredible. But at the root of it, how they're still booking people, how they're still doing things, it hasn't shifted that much, you know.
Mhm.
And even then, then it's almost this like, well, you either have to be tiny or you have to be larger. Where is just that regular, healthy, happy person that's not thinking about a scale or a number?
Mhm.
So that's where I wanted to find myself. And the journey to get there was pretty wild, I would say. My mom passed away 4 years ago in actually September 6th. It will be 4 years. And
Mhm.
she had a very beautiful passing. I think getting a knock on your door from death is actually really beautiful, rather than just being like wiped away really quickly.
Mhm.
Um, and so I got to go kind of through this amazing process with her. And it was like every time I got to see her, and mind you, this is right when the shutdown happened. So
Mhm.
there was a lot of stuff going on. But it's like every time I saw her, I would grieve a new part of her that was gone. So it was like layers of her would die as she
Mhm.
back inwards to the earth. And one thing that I got to do with her was go through all of her photo albums, and I scanned everything. And then I went through and we picked out her favorite photos so we could have them at the celebration of her life, which
Mhm.
I think is really beautiful that she got to pick those things out.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And what a special time for you two to have together too.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
totally. And just her knowing that she was going to be celebrated and things were going to be beautiful, which they were. We made them so beautiful. It was nice to just land in that space with her. But one thing that was so eye opening was hearing my mom talk down about herself on her deathbed.
Mhm.
Just no, I'm too heavy in that, or look at my face looks funny in that, or and it was really obviously everything's a mirror for us, right? And so I
Mhm.
could just hear myself judge myself every single time I see a photo of myself. And mind you, my husband's a photographer. So
Yeah.
I see a lot of photos of myself, and still
Mhm.
to this day, I can't say that I'm at the place where I see a photo and I'm like, damn, like right away. Like I still have this body dysmorphia, the layers that I work through. But I
Mhm.
have found so much more love for myself. And um, part of that was in losing my mom. And it was like there were a lot of things that she figured out in this life that she passed down to me, but this was like this missing puzzle piece, and she highlighted it at the end of her life to mirror that for me. And it feels like such a gift that I got
Mhm.
to sit with that. um,
Mhm.
and just like also like I'm gonna figure this out for us, like
Mhm.
um and also I have a almost 7-year-old daughter, so and a 9-year-old non-binary child. So also figuring it out for them, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
So it's just really beautiful for her to be like, here's the door that I haven't figured out how to unlock. Like how
Mhm.
can you find the key basically,
Oh, yeah, it feels like the key is, like, that self-love, that self-compassion, that, all of that you're really shifting towards that inner beauty, I just you had told me that story once before, and I just love it so much. I think that was it's such a powerful example to realize how deeply ingrained tearing ourselves apart is in this society, and I just feel like there is so much beauty in that example of her really highlighting that for you because like you said, everything's a mirror. So like if seeing that within her, it's like, ooh, you can see that within her because there is something there within you. And it's like, ooh, let's investigate that. How can we start to shift that? Especially with your background in the beauty industry, how can we start shifting to more acceptance of ourselves and our bodies and what we look like, more self-love and more self-compassion for ourselves and these beautiful bodies that we're in? It's like, it feels like such a powerful, beautiful journey of coming back home to self, which I think is so much of the journey that I'm on, that I know so many other people are on. So I just love that example. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in that moment it hit me, but I didn't know how to shift it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I went through this really wild journey, and some of this will have to be for another time. But long story short, when my mom died, my anxiety got completely out of control.
Mhm.
And I got gifted with this incredible, like, God sent angel of a therapist. And part of um, part of the work was taking some medication, which I'm very thankful for. I definitely believe that Western medicine is a gift. I also
Absolutely.
believe when married with Eastern medicine, it's when we can heal. So I
Yes.
do think the two have
Completely.
to do a dance together. One is not, we need them both.
What I say too. It's like, how can we find that right balance between Eastern and Western medicine to work together to truly create change and heal? So I just want to, yes,
The
absolutely. I
heart
believe
space,
that
though,
too.
right? Like what's in between the Eastern and West? It's like the heart, right? It's this heart
Mm-hmm.
space that the like that snake that the snakes that we always see around all the medical stuff,
Right.
It's like they're dancing together to
Hmm.
create healing.
Yeah.
But with that, she is like, here's this medication, but here's also self-compassion classes because you need both of these things together hand in hand. And I was in my second self-compassion class, and a 92-year-old woman logged on to that class with us via Zoom.
Hmm.
And I decided that day that I was going to close my computer and I was actually going to start being my own best friend. And the way that I talk to my best friends is the way I'm going to start talking to myself, because if I talk to my friends the way that I was talking to myself, there's no way in hell they'd be friends with me.
Hmm.
They were talking to me the way I was talking to myself, there's no way in hell I would be friends with them. You know what I mean? Like, it
Absolutely.
was just, and I was like, I'm not going to wait until I'm 92 to figure this out. I'm not going to wait
Hmm.
until I'm on my deathbed with my daughter going through my photos until I figure this out. I'm just going to fucking figure it out now. You know,
Yeah.
I'm 11
Definitely.
years on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But if I can figure it out. So that was it. It was like I closed it and I was like, this is the journey. So
Hmm.
it's been
Hmm.
a almost 4-year journey of like every day choosing to love myself. And I
Yeah.
start my morning with a self-compassion, like body puja massage where I tell myself how much I love myself. Every
Hmm.
single part of myself. I tell myself how thankful I am, for this
Yeah.
universe that I get to be just like swirling in all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
And
I love that.
yeah, so yeah, it's been like quite a journey. And I'd say like a huge part of my journey was I just turned 37. Well, not just. I turned 37 in November. Oh, I'm almost 38. And I'm sitting here in this self-compassion and I'm, really teaching this to people, but mind you, like I'm getting like preventative Botox. I got like
Mhm.
talked into this space.
Well, I think also you being so immersed in the beauty industry, it is so normalized. It's like, oh, it's just another day of the week. It's just let's go, let's get Botox, let's get lip filler, whatever it may be. It's so normalized, you know? I think so many people just that's just what you do and not questioning it by any means, you know?
Absolutely. And that's what it felt like. It was just like, oh, this is the next step. Oh, you're
Mhm.
36. This is, whatever it is. And I really was like, I think a good question that I'm trying to sit with often, even when I like eat something, is like, am I doing this out of love? Like, is this something that I'm putting in my body out of love? Am I putting it in my body out of pressure? Am I putting it out of body in my body because someone told me I had to? On my
Mhm.
body, in my body, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Like, where is this coming from and why am I putting it in?
Mhm.
And on my 37th birthday, I was like, I'm not doing this to my body. I'm not going to have my children witness that this is something that we have to do when we age.
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
run from aging, run from this really beautiful thing that we actually like promised the earth. Like, please give me a body. I promise to give it back to you. You
Mhm.
know, like
Yeah.
I promise this back to you. If I get to experience this body and enjoy this, all of this, I'm going to give it back to you, And I feel like we just start running from this promise of like giving it back to the earth, right?
Yeah, I think it's like it's just I feel so deeply ingrained in our society. It's like societal pressures of like aging is a bad thing. Like you see all the celebrities that we see, all of them getting Botox, filler, changing the way like there's a few people in the industry that I've seen that have allowed themselves to fully age and not given to this need to look a certain way to since you're in the media. It just feels like it's so deeply ingrained in our society that it's actually not beautiful to age. It's actually how can we go the opposite direction to stay young as we can look forever. But I feel like the shift that I feel like is already happening, but I hope we continue to see happen is like embracing that natural beauty. Cause for me, I don't know what I'm going to feel like when I get older, like when my hair, I'm already starting to get some gray hairs and I was like, oh my gosh, should I dye my hair? Like I've never gotten Botox, but like I don't know how I'm genuinely going to feel with aging. But what I do know right now is that I'm really learning the beauty in aging and how it's actually a beautiful thing. And that's something that I've just been really feeling deeply. And I'm like, okay, how can we embody this? How can we embody this? And all of the women and men, come together and start realizing that it's not an ugly thing to age. It's this beautiful thing that if we start to embrace this together, we won't keep spending money on these expensive surgeries and Botox and feeding this industry that I feel like wants to keep us questioning ourselves in a way. It's just really interesting. I feel like these conversations are so necessary to have. Not that it's a bad thing, anyone that's gotten Botox or any type of surgery, that's okay. It's figuring out the intention behind why you're doing it. Like, are you doing it from this wounded place of like feeling like you need to look a certain way to be worthy of love? Or is it like you genuinely want to do this from an empowered place? I think there's a balance with it for sure as well.
Yeah, I absolutely believe there's a balance. And I think it goes back to like just landing in your root system. Like, am I doing this out of love? Am I doing this because it makes me feel good 100%? I know people who get Botox and filler and they feel fucking fantastic. And I think that that's great. If you
Mhm.
need to get your boob job or whatever it is, I'm here for it. And trust me, like when it comes to fashion, I love getting dressed. I love doing my hair. Like I love feeling and being beautiful, right? But I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
it is always, and this even comes from like, even goes into like working out and stuff. Is it coming from a place of I love myself, so I'm giving myself this?
Mhm.
Or is it coming from somebody else has told me I have to do this, so this is what I'm doing?
Yeah, and I think that's the part where it's like being brutally honest with yourself because I think a lot of the times our perception can be skewed from wounds that we are not aware of. So it's actually sitting with yourself and being so incredibly honest, which is really hard to do, which is really, really hard to do. Because I think sometimes there is that fine line between, yes, I'm doing this because it makes me feel good, but unconsciously doing it from a wounded place. And that's where like the self-reflection I feel like really needs to come into play. But yeah, I think there's like a balance because again, like I love to, wear makeup and get dressed up, but I also love and embrace my natural look all the time too. So I think it's like finding that right balance between, you know, using makeup and all of the things that the beauty industry offers, but then also getting back to the basics. Do you still love yourself when you have no makeup on, when you are just dressed up in just a t-shirt and shorts and not looking your best? Do you still feel good in your body and who you are? Or do you need the makeup and the nice clothes to give you your self-worth, like your sense of worth? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
absolutely know what you're saying. And it's something that like I actually it's like I go undercover as like this some people have named me like a wedding doula, but it's like I'll come in for hair and makeup and people think they're gonna get like a hair and makeup like sassy kind of person, and I'm coming
Yeah.
with my Palo Santo and I'm like so
Let's sage the space.
I mean basically I give like every bride Palo Santo and selenite and
Oh,
but
I love that.
like you're gonna feel like when it comes down to it, and this is with all of my brides, with anyone who's sitting in my chair, like whatever you're feeling on the inside is what is going to like extend out and mirror out. You can't mask that shit. It doesn't matter how much Chanel you put on or whatever you're trying to just like put in front of it for people to
Mhm,
not see how you're feeling. That is what's going to be seeping out of you. So if you
mhm,
can land in a place of like let me back up just for a second. Some people say that women dress for men or they dress for women. So it's like these two things that you pick. You either are
mhm,
a woman dresser and you dress for the women or you dress for the men. I think both of those are bullshit. I think we dress for ourselves. Like, why can't we dress for ourselves? What makes you feel good? So it's
mhm,
like getting back to that space of like, actually, do I feel good in what I have on right now? Because that confidence is what everyone's going to see.
mhm,
For me, when I'm working with people, especially with brides, I mean, man, the things that get thrown at brides for what they need to get done before their wedding,
mhm. Ugh,
Botox included, it's wild. It's so wild to me. And so I'm here to just be the one who's like, nope, that's not right. No, nope, you don't need that. Nope, you don't need that. And when it comes down to it, it's like, what makes you feel good? Like that's where I land with my clients. Is like, what makes you feel like you? Do you wear
mhm,
your hair down all the time and that makes you feel sexy? We're wearing our hair down on our wedding then. You don't
mhm,
have to because bridal magazine said you have to put your hair in an updo or whatever it is. It's like
mhm,
breaking down all these rules, and they're not even rules. It's really just like, how can I throw these little things out for you to grab it like a little mouse and just consume all the cheese that we're throwing out?
yeah, and
So it's
yeah, just like almost feeding on your insecurities too. It feels like, oh, you need to do this. It's like so you can either spend more money or need it to look a certain way. So I just feel like you also making these shifts in the wedding industry, which again, there's a very light side to wedding industry, and there's a very dark side to the wedding industry. And I think bringing in that intentionality and helping the brides get back to the basics and what they actually want, not what they think other people want them to do, or how they should dress, or what they should wear, or where their wedding should be, how many people they should invite, all of the external things that come along with planning a wedding. It's like, how can we land back into ourselves, what makes us feel good, and can we remember what this day is actually about the union between you and your partner, the love that you all have created for one another. It's not really about that external stuff anyway. I feel like there's so much of that needed in the wedding space too, so I'm so glad that you are bringing that intentionality into that space as well, because it's so needed. And like, you're walking that same path, it's different from, you're actually doing your own inner work too, and like, you know doing things that light you up, and like having that more self-compassion, more self-love, so you can actually talk about this from like a grounded space, and not from like, oh, you should be this way because this is what, it's like you're embodying your learnings and trying to teach it and share that light with other people, which I love so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for seeing that. I could definitely go into the wedding space. I mean, it's like I left the fashion world because of this like bubble and image and really like monster. Like if we want to think about things in like an animate space and like an energy that is alive and breathing, it is of course beautiful because it's the beauty industry, right? It's beautiful. But then it's like this thing that's come in and just consumed. And that's exactly what happened with weddings. When I jumped over to the wedding industry, it was like, I mean, our wedding was like this 4-day love fest, but it was like so unheard of to like have something that long. And it was, and mind you, I'm gonna peel it back because we did not. It was, we like made so many things. It was not like over consumption, but the consumptions just come into the wedding industry now, right? It's like we learn how to just consume all things as humans. We just come in and like consume it all, and so
Mhm.
that's exactly what happened in the wedding industry. And that's exactly why I'm continuing to peel back layers and actually bringing in like so much intention, like deep intention to going back to like the roots. And I think
Mhm.
that's really like my work period is going back to the root system. Like, how do we get back to the deepest, darkest parts of our roots and like bring light to those places,
Mhm.
love to those places, and beauty to those places? Because that's really like, first of all, where all of these things came from and like where all of these things deserve to be, you
Mhm. Yeah,
know?
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I do believe more than anything. And I was actually, I heard this morning that like self compassion is actually not we are not self compassionate by nature. It's
Mhm.
actually something that we have to reach out to learn. It's not
Mhm.
something that comes to us as human beings.
Mm.
But within our self compassion practice, it helps our compassion towards others grow exponentially, actually.
Mhm.
So it's like this practice that we have to learn because it's
Right.
not in us. But
Yeah.
when we flip it around and actually give ourselves that love and compassion, then it goes back out, right? So it's almost like that root system coming like back in, and then the root system can even stretch out even farther from there.
Mhm. Absolutely. Oh, I love that. And I always say too, we aren't taught how to love ourselves. Like so many of us, like you said, we are our biggest critics. The way that you wanted to start talking to yourself, like you would talk to a best friend, most of us are our own biggest critics, our worst enemies, because we aren't really taught how to love ourselves. We aren't taught how to have self-compassion. And like you said, it's not like in our nature to like instinctually do that, because I believe like our ego is always trying to keep us safe. Our minds are always trying to keep us safe. So like, okay, comparing us to other people, just trying to like keep us safe in a way where we just aren't taught how to actually love ourselves. And I feel like if we all learned how to have more self-love, more self-compassion with ourselves, learn how to really love and accept ourselves, our bodies, where we are, it would affect every industry. It would affect the beauty industry. It would affect the wedding industry because we wouldn't be doing things out of insecurity anymore. It would be out of pure love and joy and fulfillment. And it feels like this movement, which I hear people talking more and more about like self-love, self-compassion. I feel like we're inching towards that. And I feel like so many women specifically, because that's who I mainly work with, it's like we are learning how to love ourselves. So we break the cycle and teach our children and the next generations to come how to learn to love themselves and to have that self compassion, since it hasn't been taught so far. And I just feel like the more we can teach that and embody that and be that in the world, it will have a ripple effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. And that's like a huge part of my work is like, I believe that anytime we're teaching our children, it's a opportunity to reteach ourselves.
Hmm.
So within teaching my children to love themselves, I'm reteaching myself how to love myself again.
Yeah.
But one thing that I practice quite often, especially in the morning, I'm greeted by like 10 women most Saturday mornings, right? And when I go into these weddings, I have everyone's insecurities. The minute somebody sits in my chair, the first thing they tell me is that their nose is too big, or that they
Mm,
have a circular face, or that they want to hide their ears. It's always the very first thing that I'm hearing from someone. Maybe their name first, maybe, but what comes right after that is what they don't like about themselves.
mhm,
And so I actually started a practice last season where when somebody told me something they didn't like about themselves, I asked them to tell me 3 things they liked about themselves.
oh,
And so it's a practice I try now with myself anytime I'm putting myself down, especially when looking at a photo, right? Because my body dysmorphia kicks in. It's like,
mhm,
oh, I'm going to go straight to that part of my arm. And it's like, whoa, 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 no, no, no. We're going to back up. We're going to talk about all the things we love about ourselves. And that's it.
mhm,
And not
mhm.
even focus on that anymore, Uh,
Right.
and so within that work, I'm hoping that I'm also getting to teach these elderly women to love themselves, because a lot of times it is the mother-in-laws or the grandmas who the first thing they're telling me is something they don't like about themselves.
Mhm,
That's in their cronehood, that's like in the
mhm,
space where if we, especially around like the midlife, I was sitting and talking about the midlife crisis a lot this weekend. And if we could actually sit in that space and focus on how we are going to become elders and actually hold this next generation correctly, we wouldn't be chasing after this other thing like, oh, I'm going to go get a new car and like Botox and whatever it is to make myself feel young again. It's like, oh no, I'm actually going to accept this beautiful threshold that I'm walking into where I get to be an elder and I get to hold people through this next part, you know?
mhm, mhm,
So I think just like, um, I think within teaching this younger generation through us learning, we also get to reflect that back to this older generation who gets to reclaim that space, like really
mhm.
reclaim it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, look at
They
my
get to break the cycle as well.
kid.
It's like we're teaching everyone's learning and like whatever yeah, it's like they are also breaking that cycle for their generation.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And just like what a gift it all is, because I do believe that all of our personal healing is everyone's healing. And it does just
Absolutely.
open up these gateways like all the way back to, wherever that kind of darkness got closed off at the root of our ancestors' belief systems or whatever, it is. It's all pretty wild, the depth of it all, you know.
Definitely. Yeah.
Hey guys, we are super excited to announce the launch of something new. We will be launching something called a community on a platform called School. That's SKOOL. It's similar to a Patreon, but better. It's a platform for learning and, well, community. Basically, it will give you access to exclusive content from both Holly and I. Holly is a certified holistic health coach, and she is also a certified embodiment coach. I have a degree in kinesiology and received a certification in personal training. I also am an advancing student in mediumship development and have been channeling spirit for as long as I can remember. Through our own experience and journeys, as well as our knowledge gained through education, we will be curating content to specifically aid in your journeys back home to self. This will include monthly guided meditations, guided embodiment practices, pick-a-card readings, energy healing, guided workouts, and healthy recipes. It will also include important teachings to help you become the most embodied version of yourself. Some topics will include how to connect with your intuition, how to tap into the psychic within you, how to heal your inner child, how to face and understand your ego, how to heal your relationship with your body and food, and more. This platform will also allow for conversation and connection with others who are also part of the community, giving you the opportunity to potentially meet other like-minded individuals who are also on the path of becoming the best versions of themselves. This path is not easy and at times can be isolating. We are not supposed to do this alone. Community is so healing and so important, so we hope this will provide support for you regardless of where you might be on your journey. It's only $22.22 a month, where you will have unlimited access to all of the content as well as the new content rolled out monthly. It will also give you a $10 discount on our monthly healing circles. Holly and I both struggled with self-image, self-confidence, knowing our self-worth, and knowing what it means to truly love ourselves majority of our lives. The truth is that we are not taught how to properly love ourselves in this day and age, and we are on a mission to make change. We owe it to the future generations to come. We believe that it is important to love your mind, body, and spirit cohesively in order to truly step into the highest, most authentic version of yourself. We hope to see you there, honey.
I do want to talk about like how the way you talk about your body is passed down from generation to generation. Just how, because I have some like research that I want to dive into too about how most of the time when you are speaking negatively about your body, focusing on so much of what you eat, what you look like, it didn't start with you. It's like these types of negative beliefs have been passed down from generation to generation. And I know for me specifically, my mom never talked badly about her body or food in any sort of way. I found when I was getting to the age of like grade school, high school, I found myself comparing myself a lot. And I know that there's like this generational pattern within my family of like comparison, needing to be perfect, look perfect, perceive, put on like the perfect life persona to feel worthy of love. It's like this deep unconscious even belief of like needing to be perfect. And that translated in my life and manifested in my life as having an eating disorder, which I'm just now realizing because I feel like, oh, if I looked this certain way, then I'll be worthy of love. But also like just that deep comparison, like easily influenced, never feeling good enough. But I know you have a daughter, so I want to get into this a bit afterwards, but I really believe that moms lead by example. So I wanted to share some research to back this up. So just bear with me for a minute because I really feel like research is so necessary for people to really see and understand how deeply woven this is in our society. It's saying the mother-daughter body image connection. So this research indicates a strong correlation between mother's body dissatisfaction and their daughter's body image issues. A study published in the Journal of Youth and Adolescence in 2016 found that daughters whose mothers were critical of their own bodies were more likely to develop body dissatisfaction themselves. And then the role of maternal influence. A study published in Body Image 2010 highlighted that the mother's own body image concerns and eating behaviors significantly influence their daughters' perception of their bodies. The study found that daughters are more likely to internalize their mother's attitudes towards weight and appearance, especially when mothers are vocal about their dissatisfaction. Then the generational cycle. So, a 2017 study in the Journal of Adolescence found that body dissatisfaction is often transmitted from mothers to daughters through direct comments about weight and shape, as well as through our subtle behaviors like frequent dieting or body checking. These behaviors are often internalized by daughters who then replicate them in their own lives. And then lastly, I read this book, Fat Talk. It's Parenting in the Age of Diet Culture or Dieting by Virginia Soul Smith. And she has like so many examples of this and really highlights that the language that parents use about their bodies and food can significantly impact children. For example, comments about needing to lose weight or criticism of one's body can reinforce negative body image in children. Dieting behaviors and negative body talk often become ingrained family patterns, with girls adopting similar behaviors and attitudes as as those modeled by their mothers and their female relatives. So I really want to emphasize that that's why when you heal, you are healing your mother, your grandmother, your daughter. You are breaking that cycle of speaking negatively to yourself, of constantly needing to be on a diet, of constantly needing to look a certain way or be thin to feel like you are worthy of love. It's like learning how to fully love and accept yourself fully and completely exactly as you are and speak to yourself and your body with so much love and compassion and understanding, and teach that to the next generations to come, and be that example for your mom, for your grandmother, if they're still alive, or even energetically, you doing that is healing for them as well. It's like, that's the power of learning how to love yourself and how more compassion. It's like you are quite literally breaking such a toxic cycle of just speaking negatively to yourself and tearing yourself down, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of things, thank you for bringing this in. A lot of
Yeah.
things just like shot into my brain during that. One thing I'll just touch on since you just said that about, your the people before us and after us. Really what it is you get to do the work for 7 generations behind you and 7 generations ahead of you.
Mhm.
So, I mean, like, deep work both ways, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that's
hard
what we get
too.
to do. Hard, so
Yeah.
hard, but so worth it, you
Yeah,
know? I
absolutely.
I know, that I had already shared about counting my calories, and being very specific about a certain size, weighing myself all the time. I mean, the amount of times I've weighed myself. We don't even have a scale in my house. I won't
Same.
I
Yeah.
won't weigh myself again. If I'm at the hospital and they wanna weigh me, I refuse to get on the scale. I don't need to, unless something drastic happens and I'm like, walking around like a skeleton, or I've just ballooned out in 2 days and they need to absolutely weigh me for some wild reason. I'm not doing that shit anymore.
Yeah, I actually want to touch on this real quick
Yeah.
because I do this too, and I tell my clients too, because I think we put so much emphasis on what we weigh. I used the same thing. I used to weigh myself every single day, and if it wasn't what I wanted it to be, I would make myself go work out for like an hour longer. How do you approach that situation when a doctor does want to weigh you? Like, what do you say respectfully, just so we can like give the listeners just an example?
Well, I don't know if I say anything respectfully at the doctors. I'll just put that out there to begin with. But I just tell them that I know that I'm healthy. I know that my weight's healthy. I don't need to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Okay.
just
Yeah.
say,
I wanted.
unless you guys find something that's going on with my body that you absolutely need this for some reason, I'll get on the scale for you, but I don't think it's necessary at this time.
Yeah, I love that, just sticking up for yourself. I feel like we need to stand in our power and use our voices. What I like to say when I'm about to be weighed, I'm like, "Oh, I know that I'm about this weight." So, you can just write that down. I don't really feel comfortable getting on the scale. I know I'm this weight, and there's that for your records. And
Yeah.
then they don't normally say anything. It's kind of like, "Oh, okay." The one time someone was like, "Why don't you want to get on the scale?" And I was like, "I just don't feel comfortable. I just don't." Yeah. I didn't need to get in the whole backstory of like, "Oh, I used to have an eating disorder and I was chained to the scale and it was so toxic." And it's like I just don't feel comfortable with it right now.
Yeah.
That's an answer.
That's a great answer. I usually am like, it's none of your business.
Yeah.
So that's just me. That's just me in the Western medical world, you guys. But one thing that I really want to bring in and touch upon here, because it came in super strong just now as we're talking about weight, is being pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And especially at the doctor's office, them weighing you and the pressure that you're not gaining enough, and then the pressure that you gain too much, and then the pressure that you might have diabetes from it. And I mean, just so much pressure around when you're pregnant and wait. And then once you have the baby, the immediate response to get it off. Like, it has to be
Mm,
off in 4 months. I have to get it off in 4 months. And a huge thing that I sit with often is it took a whole year to make a human and give birth to that human. You should at least get a year to get that weight off, at least a year. I think even longer, because, and I'll also bring this in while we're here. I believe, especially as women, that our body gains weight in certain times of the month and of certain times of the season for protection. I think
mm,
that that's a huge part of our animal makeup, is that we actually have this beautiful ebb and flow of needing to have certain weight on us to bleed more, depending on, the time of the month with our moon cycles. depending on certain stressors that are coming in with life. I mean, the amount of weight that I gained, I mean, obviously, right? Shutdown, pandemic, I think everyone kind of put on some extra weight there. But when my mom was gone, like my mother, like my portal to this planet, her body that got me here was gone. And my whole body was like, oh, I need to hold on to something. I'm going to hold on to anything to feel safe. And instead of just witnessing my body and being like, oh, my sweet body, my sweet body needs this.
Yeah, it's just
Like,
trying to protect you and keep you safe.
yeah, I'm just being like,
Mhm.
oh, thank you. I'm just going to sit in this squishy spot for a minute.
Yeah, be
Oh my
grateful.
God,
Yeah.
got to count my calories again, or whatever the spiral, is of like going back into something like that. So I think it's also with the whole weight situation. It's like, I was actually really thinking about that. I don't know if you've ever read Louise Hay at all.
I know of her. I know she does incredible work. I haven't read her books. I have one of her books, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay, well, she has this whole healing the body A to Z. It's like a glossary, and you can look
Mhm.
up different ailments, and it tells you like what the thought process is, like what the problem causes of your thought, and then the new thought pattern on like how to release whatever
Mhm.
that trauma is in your body. This was my doctor growing up. This book was my doctor. We didn't really go to Western stuff growing up. It was like, go look it up in Louise Hay. She'll tell you a new thing to think about, which it was nice to have this kind of counterbalance with everything else I had going on. But one thing I was thinking about when looking up like fat and it goes into different parts of the body, um, is like how we're actually taking in self love. Because not eating and being thin is not self love as well. So
Mhm.
it's like,
Mhm.
or if we take in too much of it is it's like needing the love from something else. So it's like really redefining like what self-love is and what that
Mhm.
looks like, right? And like
Mhm.
sometimes that is like sometimes my self-love is an ice cream cone. Like,
Yeah, ice cream, I always say, because I feel like it's so much of these younger wounds, like, having ice cream and enjoying it is, like, so healing for my inner child and, like,
yes.
such an act of self-love in that moment, with no restriction. Because 'cause I'm sure you can relate, like, having so much restriction around ice cream of, like, not wanting to gain weight, the calories, it's like, that's actually medicine for the inner child and for, like, the healing, finding that right balance, not over-consuming, it's balance, balance, balance with everything, but like, yeah, I think self-love is gonna look different for everyone, but too, it's like finding what that self-love looks like for you. Yeah, and I think I wanna touch on what you said about, like, pregnancy and women gaining weight and all, like, the pressure too, because I haven't been pregnant. I feel like, my husband and I are knowing we're going to expand our family in some point in the near future. And I have a feeling like, yeah, I don't feel like I hear women really talking about like the struggles that come along with that pregnancy and like the weight gain and all of that and like the pressures from the doctors to be hitting certain weights or yeah like you said if you've gained too much weight there's risk if you're not gaining enough there's risk and like causing that conscious unconscious pressure and more stress. I just feel like for me I feel like I'm going to be very real and raw and honest with how my body changes and all of that kind of stuff when I'm pregnant. I just really feel that. But how did you cope with yeah, like the weight gain? Like was that when you were really in like learning that self-love, self-compassion, or that was prior, right?
That was prior, yeah. And I mean, and it's just so wild because, of course, you have to go over certain bridges, right? Like you have to walk over them to know.
Mhm.
And so now
Mhm.
looking back at some women, I'm like, who are trying to get the weight off in 4 months, I'm like, you have a year, you have a year. Luckily, second baby, I really listened to first time around, and then I really gave myself more room on the other side. But I should say, I'm not going to take that all because my first baby I had at the hospital, and I had all hospital care. And that was a lot of pressure. Every single time it was like, between lines of like how they were going to look at like, no, you need to gain more weight or like, oh, you're gaining weight too quickly. It's just like always this fine line. And I'm just sitting here like, I'm literally like creating life and sustaining it on this planet to keep going. And here we are like looking at the scale, you know, and um so there were certain things that were really hard the first time around, like right away, right after my oldest came out, just really like now looking at my calories, you know, and like how many calories can I have? Like how can I get back into my pants? How quickly can I get back into my pants, you know? And it
Mhm.
was really rough and especially on top of my breast milk and needing to have high fats in my breast milk. And now they're definitely it feels nicer. It feels like they tell you need to have like 2000 2400 calories, or you know, it feels a higher intake. But when I gave birth 9 years ago, it wasn't that way. So
Mhm.
it was just like, how do I snap back into like myself? Like, how do I get myself back? And I think
Mhm.
that's also a huge lie is like, how do I get myself back? It's like, you're never going to get yourself back because yourself dies when you give birth. And then a new part of you is reborn with that child. And that self is here, but you don't need to find them anymore because there's no getting them back because now you're over here. You know what I
Yeah, and I think even that wanting your body back to be what it was prior, it's like our bodies have so much wisdom, and like learning how to trust your body that it's going to naturally get back to a state, in a regulated state, in a regulated weight in its own time, if you are taking care of yourself
mean?
from like that loving place. It's like,
But
trusting your body.
yes. But also,
Yeah.
like, how do you go back when your whole body just opened itself, grew an
Mhm.
entire human being, and then opened its cavity enough to get that soul out of it? There's no going back. You can't like go and close all of that back up, you know?
Right.
Like a
It's like
whole part was
acceptance.
opened. Yeah.
Yeah, radical acceptance of this new beautiful body that just brought in a new soul. But there's like consciously knowing that and embodying that, I feel like is two different things, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'll go into that a little bit actually about what I've transitioned in my body to really honor that, what my body's done, to really
Mhm.
like honor the tiny little stretch marks that I got at the very end of my second pregnancy that I was like, and now I'm
Mhm.
like, they're so beautiful what I did to get this incredible, beautiful child on this planet, you know? And so, second time around, I had midwives who were heaven sent. I loved them so much. Oh my God, this birth was incredible. The amount of prenatal care and postnatal care that you get with midwives and midwifery and home birth is unlike anything I think the hospital will ever be able to replicate. It's never the same, ever. Um, and what these women gifted me after, one of the most beautiful things that they said to me, and it helped me slow down needing to get my body back.
Mhm.
We were going on a trip to Hawaii 2 months after my daughter was born. And postnatal care with midwives, they're like basically there until like the 2 month mark. They see you all the time. They just tend you so beautifully. And I made a comment around like, now if only I could like fit in my swimsuits. And they just looked at me and they just said, Ash, every single woman who's in their bikini on that beach with their partner and no kids is dying to have what you have. They don't care
Mhm.
about you fitting in your swimsuit. All they want is the two kids that you just brought to this planet.
Mhm.
Like that
Yeah.
is what they're longing for, you
Mm.
know? So it just like was like this, whoa, like, wow, like my body has brought two, you know, just like that moment of like, oh, that's right. Like, let's get back to the root of like what actually matters, right?
Yeah,
Like, that's
absolutely.
all that matters is that my body was just like so healthy enough to give me this 2 month old baby and like sustain her life still, you know?
I feel like it's dropping back into that gratitude for your body. Cause yeah, I love that they said that, because and I'm going to do an episode on this too with another woman about, there's so many women that are struggling with infertility, unable to get pregnant, carry their own babies. And such a struggle, and I have so much love and compassion for those women. And it's like, yeah, getting back to that space of like, whoa, my body gave me the ability to bring in these two babies. Like, how can I, when you do have that thought, not shaming yourself of like, oh, I wish I could fit in my bathing suit, like honoring that, letting that be there, but and not shaming yourself for having that thought, but then coming back to the truth of like, whoa, my body is so beautiful. My body is so powerful. Look at what it has allowed me to bring into this new or into earth, you know?
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
shift did happen for me. I felt so fucking good. I still feel so good in every single swimsuit I wear. I don't care what is happening there, I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Look at these kids running around. I, like, brought them here," you know?
Yeah,
Um,
I love that.
one
Yeah, there's so much power in that.
Yeah, yes. And one big thing that I do wanna bring in around the body, that I do now every Mother's Day specifically, is I hold ceremony and ritual just for my body, like, my soul, like, I get it too, right? But my body, like, its actual vessel, having an honoring of what it's done to continue my family here, and like really witnessing this body and all it does to continue to sustain their life and the love that, like, they live on. um,
Mhm.
I just like to honor it every Mother's Day and like actually sit in ceremony and have like a deep honoring of this body you know
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that's beautiful.
Yeah, and, I just wanna extend that out, that that's, like, something that we can just sit with for a minute, you know?
Mhm.
Just really sit
Yeah.
with it, like, getting it like, I wake up in the morning and I try to do a grounding practice of, like, I'm, like, "Here are my feet," and I wiggle my feet, and, like, "Here are my knees," and just, like, really, like, getting back to, like, landing in the body, you know?
Yeah, that's so important because I know so many people are dissociated from their bodies as well. Like, especially if you have body dysmorphia, any sort type of eating disorder, have had any sort of trauma, emotional, physical, sexual abuse of any sort, it can feel unsafe to be in your body. Like, it's like dissociating living up here. So, it's like, how can we create that safety back in the body by healing, having these huge emotional releases, going back to painful memories, doing the healing work. And like, how can we land back in these beautiful bodies because our bodies are beautiful and they are so sacred. And that's the human experience, to be in these bodies, these physical bodies. And our bodies, when we learn to take care of them and appreciate them, we can hear the wisdom that they're always trying to communicate with us. They are the ones that are always keeping us safe, trying to protect us, even when you are turning to food and binge eating, or turning to alcohol or drugs or social media or whatever it may be, like distracting you. That's actually your body trying to keep you safe, like so you don't have to feel a painful memory or experience. And even talking about moms, it's like that mother intuition, that gut instinct. The gut instinct comes from your body. It's like that inner knowing. So your body is always trying to communicate with you, always trying to keep you safe. And that's something that I'm really integrating in my life and deeply understanding and really embodying, is the beauty of these bodies. And when you can really have that self-love, that self-compassion, get back in your body, and like, instead of speaking so negatively to your body, rewiring that to that appreciation, that gratitude, that love, there's so much beauty that can come from that relationship with your body, instead of hating it so much as most of us have been, conditioned to do. It's like, how can we rewrite that story and come back home to these beautiful bodies and start really honoring and respecting them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought that in, um,
Yeah.
that, like, full circle just now, because one big thing that I've been sitting with, deeply, especially around, like, climate change and just the, um, the effects of what we're seeing around this planet, um, is when we remember that we have bodies and we start tending to them correctly, we remember that our bodies are of the earth. Our bodies are the earth.
Mhm.
And how we treat our bodies is how we're going to treat the earth, no matter what.
Mhm. Mhm.
If we're not treating our bodies correctly, there's no way we can treat the planet correctly.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
like, let's all turn inwards a little bit and start tending to our earth, our body, so
Hmm.
we can tend to this, right? And it goes back to that self-compassion. Like when
Yeah.
we have self-compassion, then it extends outward. So it's like tending to the self tends to everyone, tending to the self tends
Yeah.
to everyone.
Yes. And I want to say too, this is what's coming to mind. So you are very spiritual, right? I'm very spiritual, feel very connected to, the other side, spirit guides, guardian angels, God, source, all of it. The most spiritual thing that you can do, I truly believe, is be here in this human experience and take care of this human body, this human vessel of yours. You chose to incarnate here at this time and be in this body. And it's like the most, I think oftentimes when I think of spirituality, it's like being kind of like up in the clouds with all of the spiritual guides and all of that. And it's like, the message I've been getting so strongly from my guides, I feel, is like the importance of the body, being here in the body, loving and accepting your body, taking care of your body. It's truly, I believe, one of the most spiritual things that you can do, which kind of feels like counterintuitive, like you would think that it wouldn't be, but I'm really integrating that right now. It's like, no, that's the spiritual path, learning how to fully love and accept yourself and your body exactly as you are. Do you feel that too? Or how does that
Absolutely.
feel for
I mean,
you?
it's like as above, so below, as within, so without, right?
Mhm.
It's like it's
Right.
all right there. And yeah, I mean, you're connected through, right? Like some people say the thread or whatever way you want to look at it, but you have to witness that, like, this is our vehicle to experience all of this stuff.
Hmm.
Like, this is it. And, I could go into like so many things here, and maybe we'll save that for another time.
Yeah.
It does go back to the Garden of Eden and like creating your own heaven and hell. It's right here, right in front of us. It's not
Mhm.
after this. It's actually right here, right in front of us. So
It's a
like,
state of being,
what are you
absolutely.
creating? And it's up to you. Like no one else is. Of course, there are outside effects. I'm not going to say that, but when it comes to like the actual decision of what we're going to let flow through us, it does come back to us and like
Mhm.
our agency and our autonomy. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We're interrupting this episode to share something close to our hearts, our virtual healing circles. We have been loving them so much and meeting so many of you incredible people through them. Brittany and I are passionate about bringing people together to support one another and heal in community. We felt alone on our paths for so long, and coming together in community has been instrumental to our growth, and we've both seen the importance in it. We aren't meant to do this alone. In unity and vulnerability, we find strength, courage, and support each other on our paths back to ourselves. Our monthly virtual seminars blend discussions, workshops, and practices to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Whether seeking guidance, healing, or a listening ear, our gatherings offer a safe, inclusive space for people to connect, heal, and grow. Join us on this journey of healing in community. Together, we can heal, grow, and thrive. Register for the next circle using the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there. So, how are you teaching your children how to love themselves, how to love their bodies, how to have that self-compassion? Like, what are some practices that you do or are you just leading by example, or do you have specific practices that you do with your children to really cultivate that self-love? I would love to know, because I feel like there definitely are other moms and dads listening. So,
Yeah, definitely. I can share some really beautiful things. We do work on our body prayer, our puja. They don't do it as often as I do it, but it is something that they do. So whenever they put on lotion, they're thanking their legs for carrying them around. They're thanking their arms for holding them. We thank our faces and our eyes for getting to see and our ears for getting to hear. So we do a lot of landing in our body with gratitude. We'll do power poses. It was something we did a lot in the last 2 years of going back to like public school. So standing in front of the mirror with our power pose. So you're kind of like Superman or Superwoman and saying some things that you love about yourself. I am powerful. I am special. I am beautiful. I am statements of really like building yourself up. It's like scientifically proven for anyone who needs to hear that, that it does make you have more confidence throughout the day. We have a very special family motto that we say every morning before school. And it is, we will shine our unique light so bright it will reach even the darkest of places where it's needed the most.
Oh.
And that's like a huge one for us. We just see ourselves as lighthouses, and people will try to dim them because they're not allowing themselves to shine, and that can get really confusing. But what we're practicing, and I'm still practicing as a 37-year-old, is that when that happens, it's actually an invitation for me to shine brighter because they
Mm-hmm.
actually need a bigger light, a bigger invitation. My light, their light, is an invitation for other people to shine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as humans, that's all we need is an invitation or a reminder. So, yeah, so those are some big practices that we're working on right now, and just
Yeah.
really leaning into witnessing other people's reactions and how those reactions are because of something that they're going through, not
Mm-hmm.
because of something we did. And not to say that sometimes we don't do things, because that's true. Like sometimes it is about us and we take responsibility for our actions.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times when it's us shining bright and people are trying to dim it, that's usually when it has something to do with someone else, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just share like it's funny, we had this, I just kind of we put this motto together last year, and my oldest always has like amazing hair, like leopard hair, and you just all different, like very expressive with their fashion, period. So expressive. And their hair was like lime green last summer, and they went into summer school or camp, and this kid was like, put your beanie back on, your hair looks like vomit.
Oh.
And my child came home, and I was like, they told me about it, and I was like, how did that make you feel? Not very good. I said, but who did you color your hair for you or for them? And they're like, for me. And I was like, and does your hair make you feel good? And they're like, yes. And I said, I promise you, this child wants to color their hair and no one's letting them do it, or they haven't asked for it yet. 2 days later, this kid comes with red hairspray paint in their hair. So it was like
Oh.
right there, I'm like, thank you, universe. Here's this, like, thank you for letting
Here's the evidence.
there it is. Yeah. But it's just like that space, and I think sometimes with self-love, we have there's this fear of not wanting to be like a narcissist, right? So it's like this fine line or this dance,
Mhm.
or not wanting people to make us feel like that we're full of ourselves. But
Like
again,
selfish either. Yeah.
selfish, or there's something
Mhm.
in there. But for me, what I'm deciding is I would rather feel self love and like feel just totally embodied in myself, and not worry about like if that's how it's coming off for other people, because if it's coming off for other people like that, they're still just not allowing themselves to lean into the love that they have for themselves.
Right.
So
Yeah. And
yeah,
maybe like even you triggering them, it's something within them that they need to figure out. So you're actually helping them grow by you learning how to love yourself and embodying that and feeling that. That's being an example for someone else. You're either going to motivate and inspire someone or trigger someone. And either way, it's a positive thing, because when we trigger people, you're helping them grow, because it's showing them where they are not free yet, if they so choose to decide to do the inner self, like self-reflect on that, because there's a message in there. There's something for them to learn, not necessarily, so don't dim your light, because either way you're helping people.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like that, right? It's like doing that dance. And I mean, like, no, that's it. Like, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
love that. I love all that you do with your kids. That's so sweet. And maybe we can dive into another episode at some point to talk about surrounding, because I feel it's so important to teach children how to like feel their emotions and not feel shame around it, and all of that kind of stuff. So maybe we could dive into an episode surrounding that at another time. But I think the way I would love to end it is what's one thing or some of your favorite ways to show yourself self-compassion or self-love? If someone's looking like, okay, I know I want to start like learning how to love myself more, showing myself more grace and compassion, where do I start? Like, what would you say to someone?
I personally just feel like the easiest switch, I think, is just anytime you're taking in anything, like anything, is it coming from love? Is it coming for love? You know, is
Mhm.
it for love? So I think that's like the biggest thing that at least is my ongoing practice.
I
Oh,
love
is this
that.
thought that I'm either gonna let this thought flow down the river or I'm gonna like attach to it. It is
Mhm.
that with love? Is it with love? Is this like ice cream cone that I'm gonna like get down on right now? Is that coming in with love? So like is it coming in with love from love? Like just that and it takes time, you know?
Mhm.
So that would be like the biggest like ongoing practice. And then I think just doing one thing for your body a day that's for your body. I
Mhm.
personally do Kundalini yoga like every day if I'm either that or I'm hiking. Those are my two things. But
Mhm.
I move for my body every day. I don't move to get fit and stay thin every day. I move because my body deserves movement.
Mhm.
And some days I'm sick and my body doesn't want to move anywhere, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to move for my body, you know?
Yeah, honoring your body, what it needs
Yeah.
in those days. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you move your body too, you're supporting your mental health, emotional health, all of it. It's so deeply connected with that. But I love that so much. Yeah, it's like doing one thing for your body, one thing for your mind, and one thing for your soul every day. I feel like is really powerful too. But I love that so much. And something that I always say, like, to all of my clients, to the people that I work with outside of just my program, it's like something that was so powerful for me was actually looking at myself in the mirror, looking at myself in the eyes and saying, I love you, or I am learning to love you, and getting comfortable with like seeing myself and associating it with love and kindness instead of disgust and wanting to change something. It's like showing up each and every day, learning, witnessing yourself. I'm learning to love you. I'm committed to showing up for you. I'm committed to learning how to love you in this body that you're in. Really, like, really learning how to connect with yourself and build that deeper connection. And even like journaling after that of what came up for you. Like, oh, did that make you feel sick to your stomach? Did you start laughing because you were uncomfortable? Like, did you start crying because it felt like there was emotion that wanted to come through? It's like, how can you start reconnecting with yourself in a loving, nurturing way each and every day, like showing up and committing to showing up for yourself each and every day, because you're worth showing up for, and it's possible to feel good. It's possible to have self-love and self-compassion, and those tools help you get through any situation that you're in. So it's just such powerful work. It seems so simple, but living in the spaces that we've been and how deeply ingrained this is in our bones and in our society to be insecure and to constantly speak negatively to ourselves, having radical self-love is the journey, and is a hard one too. So yeah, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like a whole nother thing. I mean, if you want to really get into like self-love and self-pleasure, like reclaiming self-pleasure,
Yeah.
like a whole nother a whole nother conversation,
Absolutely.
you know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We'll dive into that because that's been something that's been coming through to me too. And I've been embodying as well. So we'll talk about that in another one because that's a really powerful one too. Another way to be in your body, being in your pleasure is being in your body, being in this human experience. So, yes.
Yeah,
So is there anything else you wanted to touch on that we didn't get to?
I don't think so. I mean, of course, I could talk about this for like hours and hours, but I think just like, yeah, like hanging up the phone on that negative friend and just being like, where's my best friend? Like, where's my best friend? You know, welcome
Yeah.
them in. Like, I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, we'll have your socials linked in the show notes below. I know you have your new business that came out, Rooted. Is that right?
Yes, rooted rituals,
Yeah.
opinions. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you do any virtual ritual like unions or any, or is it all of that in person?
I do most of it in person. I would definitely be open to doing, things on Zoom if needed, but I do find it really powerful to be in person and outdoors. I'm really reclaiming the outside world in our community space. So it's definitely like more rooted in those spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Well, we'll
I'm
have
excited to do one with you soon.
I know, I'm excited. So, if any of you are listening and you're local to San Francisco, we're going to be hosting an in person healing circle together, focusing on the mind, body, and soul connection. And it's going to be outside in nature, which I'm so excited for. It's at Trojan Point, which is in Mount Tam, like near Mount Tam, right?
On Mount Tam. Yeah.
On Mount Tam. Yeah, it's just like such a beautiful space surrounded by nature. You can see the ocean just really embodied in like Mother Earth, which I feel like is just going to enhance the whole environment. But that's on Friday, September 20th at 5:30. So yeah, if you're in the area, we'll also have the Eventbrite link for that in the show notes. We would love to have you there. I'm so excited for this. We're going to have like a cacao ceremony, opening the heart, and just different embodiment practices, how to reconnect to your body. And yeah, I'm so excited for that.
Yes. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like, reclaiming in person stuff post pandemic just feels really nice.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time, Ash, and for all the work that you do. You're just such a beautiful soul. I'm so grateful to have gotten a chance to connect with you. But yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Us.
And thank you for all your beauty and just like really showing up and choosing you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, we're mirrors in that aspect. Absolutely. I love it. It's so powerful. So yeah. But thank you all so much for listening. And with that, we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Thank you.
As we wrap up today's episode, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this journey. Your support does not go unnoticed. If you enjoyed this episode and find value in our conversations, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also allows us to reach more people who can benefit from our community of healing and support. Every review, every rating makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of the Multiple Truths podcast family. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. Keep speaking your truth and spreading your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.